is Angie from Angie's Garden. Welcome to vlog number 9. I'm here today on the allotment. I'm just having a little potter around, finally getting round to pruning the fruit bushes, which is a job that probably should have done before now, but got there in the end, and just getting on with some no-dig beds and doing a few jobs. So come along, have a look. So I'm here in the greenhouse. This winter has been, it hasn't been like a really horrible winter, but there have been pockets that have been extremely cold and extremely wet, and sadly that means that my perennial brassicas, like my perennial kales, my perennial broccolis, have just died. It's been shocking. They're normally one of the most robust plants that I grow. They grow through all kinds of weathers. They've grown through several winters, but this winter, no. So I'm desperately trying to salvage what I can. You'll have seen in previous videos that I've managed to salvage some cuttings from my 9-star broccoli. I've also found some rooted cuttings from my perennial Taunton Dean kale, and also these rather more sorry looking ones from my Covo kale. Now they are looking sorry, but they do, if you see, they do have some root. So I'm gonna see if I can pot these up and give them the best possible chance and try and get some perennial brassicas back on my plot. So that's what I'm going to do today. Managed to find one really big pot. This must have come from a clematis at some point. And I've also got a few other pots that are a bit smaller, but I'm sure will do the job, just with some nice fresh composting, give them a bit of a boost. And I'm literally just going to plant these into here. So this is a Taunton Dean. These kales are really like the backbone of the winter garden for me, so we're really missing them at the moment. Hopefully this brings some back. So I'm just going to pop these up into here. So that's 2 Taunton Deans. That one's still got quite a bit of, shove the whole thing in there. So that's 2 Taunton Deans, and I think I've got 4 Covos, so I'm going to need one more pot. But yeah, the Covo is also called African kale. I think it originates from Zimbabwe. It's a really good one. It's kind of more tender, I would say, than the Taunton Dean. It's nice to have variety, so I like to grow both. So yeah, I'll water those, find another pot for that, and hopefully they'll grow really well. And I'll have some of those back in the garden. So in my last video I sowed some peas in some gutter, and I found a bit more gutter, so I'm going to plant a little row just as a backup and maybe just have more peas, because I like peas. There's nothing nicer than wandering around in the summer garden and picking the pods of peas and eating them straight away. So what I'm doing here is attempting to get some duct tape. I'm just using this to block off the end of the gutter. That way my soil doesn't all leak out. And when it comes to wanting to plant them, I'm just going to do the slide out thing. You can just take that off and slide your peas out into the trench. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pop some compost in here. Okay, so I've got some compost here. Now I haven't pre-soaked these peas. You'll have seen in my other video that I pre-soak my peas normally in chilli. So I just put a teaspoon of chilli, some water in a jar and soak them overnight before I sow them. And I do that because I have a lot of mice on the allotment. I don't see a lot of mice, but I see the damage that the mice do. So by soaking them, it puts them off. The ones that I've soaked and I've hung on the shelf in the polytunnel, they've not been touched. There's no signs of digging or anything else. But I haven't brought any chili powder with me today, and I haven't pre-soaked any. So I'm going to be hanging them up on a shelf in the polytunnel, which obviously stops the mice being able to climb up to them so easily. And I'm also going to put a bit of netting over the top of them and just tuck that round, and hopefully that'll do the job as well. So I'm back on my alderman peas, and again I'm just going to sow them in like a grid, like a number 5. So like that, all the way along. And as I said before, this just makes sure that you get an even spread and a good mat of roots, so that when you slide it out, it's nice and easy. Oh, look at that, perfect. Just the right amount. So there we go, just like this. And then I'm just going to cover that with a bit more compost. So this compost is a mixture of my own compost, some compost that I had left over, just some multi-purpose, a bit of coir, just all mixed in there really. So that's that done. Just make sure they're all covered up. Okay, and then see if I have a little bit in here. I have quite a lot of this scaffolding netting left over from when we were building the brassica cage last week, so I'm just going to cut a piece of this, and this will be great for going over the peas. They're not the greatest scissors. Scissors are one of those things that just seem to disappear in our house and on the allotment too. These have been hanging around for a while, I think because they're a bit rubbish, nobody wants to take them. Right, so all I'm going to do with that is I'm going to double it over, and I'm going to wrap that underneath. Okay, and that will be enough to keep the mice off. Once they've germinated and put on a little bit of growth, obviously I'll loosen this as they grow. Once they put on a bit of growth, the mice aren't really bothered about them anymore. It's just in the pea and very early growth stages that they seem to be particularly interested in eating them. So yeah, I can water through that, it'll be perfect. I'm going to have a go at growing some really early potatoes. I'm going to do this by growing them in the polytunnel, so they're protected from the frost, and I'm growing them from one potato. So a lot of people buy a lot of seed potatoes, and it's very tempting, I know, but you can grow quite a lot of potatoes without doing that. This one, as you can see, has been chitting, so just out on the side in the light, in the cool greenhouse, and it started to grow these little green shoots. Now there are shoots growing on this side, and there's a shoot growing on this side too, so both of those can become plants. If I was just growing this one seed potato, I'd probably take off that shoot and let this stronger one grow on, plant that up, facing upwards. But I'm going to try and get the most I can out of this one potato, so I'm just going to cut it in half so that there's a shoot on both sides. So I've got this smaller shoot and I've got this better shoot, and I'm going to plant those into different pots, and that's it. I'm just going to put those in there and see what I get. It'll be interesting to see if the yield is any better from the better shoot or the smaller shoot. We shall see. I've just got these pots filled just a bit less than halfway with just some compost from the garden. I'm going to make a nice deep hole and plant those in with the shoots facing upwards. So that's it. Once the shoots appear, I'll cover them with some more compost. I plan to just grow them in the polytunnel, so there's no real worry about the frost. If I get a particularly cold spell, I might pop some fleece over them, and yeah, fingers crossed for a super early potato harvest. I haven't pruned these fruit bushes properly for a few years now, and they're in a bit of a mess, so I'm going to give them a snip today. Here I've got a gooseberry, a red currant and a black currant. It's important to know how to prune them according to how the fruit grows. So on the gooseberry that I'm pruning here, the fruit will grow on old wood. However, very old wood, like over 5 years old, will produce less fruit. So the maximum fruit is going to be on wood between 2 and 5 years old. So I'm just taking off some of the like crossed over and rubbing branches that are quite new, and I'm taking out some of the very old branches. Also grows on old wood, so again I'm just taking out branches that are going to grow out over the path. I'm pruning back some of the new growth on the branches that are crossing over or rubbing together, and just trying to make it into a better shape. Sorry about the moving on the camera, it's a little bit windy today. When I'm pruning branches like this, I always try to cut just above a bud or a leaf node, and that just means that you are having leaf growing at the end of the branch once it starts to grow again, which creates a much nicer look and is much better for the plant. This black currant is in desperate need for a prune. Its branches have all flopped, and black currants grow on new growth, so I'm wanting to take out quite a few of these older branches that have dropped down to the floor so that I get a much bigger harvest next year. This year the harvest might be smaller, but it'll be worth it for the bigger harvest next year. One way that you can propagate more fruit bushes is this technique of laying a branch down onto the ground. You can peg it down or just let it lie on the ground. And as you can see, I've chopped this branch free now of the parent plant because it's sent up all these new shoots and it's rooted into the ground. plants have an amazing ability to like change the nature of their cells, so they can go from being a branch to a root, which is fantastic. So here I've got a really good new plant. I can just cut it away from the parent plant and replant it elsewhere.
So I think that's it for today. I've barrowed manure, I've planted my potatoes, I've pruned the fruit bushes, I've done various other bits and bobs, so I'm feeling accomplished and time for a cup of tea. See you again next time. Thanks. Bye.